Welcome into the Ravens Rundown, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. Today's show is sponsored by Mint Mobile, with plans starting at just $15 a month on America's largest 5G network. Today, we are talking training camp winners and a couple losers as well, as Ravens training camp is just about a week in at this point. So we want to take a moment to catch you up to speed on how things are going so far. Before we get to that, though, how would you grade the Ravens offseason? We're coming towards the end of the offseason. Pads are popping this week, and we'll get some live game action from your Ravens next week. If you had to take into consideration trades, free agency, the draft, and everything in between, what kind of grade would you give for the Ravens, looking back on it? I know it's been pretty eventful. Give me a grade, A, B, C, D, or F. I'll even let you throw in a letter grade if you want. Let me know in the comments section. So our first training camp winner so far, that's the key, is Rashod Bateman. And I would say that Rashod Bateman has as much pressure on him as any player in the NFL this year, taking on this role of the number one wide receiver of the much-talked-about Ravens receiving group. You can see there showing off the athleticism with quite the grab there, and he's impressed in training camp, making multiple splash plays in 7-on-7s. He's been really good so far to this point. I like what I've seen from Rashod Bateman, and taking on this role of the top wide receiver, Lamar Jackson's going to depend on him a lot, and so far he's answered the call. Now, you look at the Ravens depth chart at that wide receiver spot. Bateman, your number one, but then an open competition after that for that number two. Tylan Wallace dealt with a bit of an injury. He's been out for some practices, but nonetheless, it'll be pretty fascinating to follow how this Ravens wide receiver room plays out over the next few weeks throughout training camp. If you think Rashod Bateman can be a number one wide receiver, then like today's video. If not, comment why. Be a hater if you feel like it. If that's the boat you want to live on, then let me know in the comments section. One way or the other. Like today's video if you think Bateman can be a number one wide receiver. If not, comment why. You're about to get an ad break. Take advantage of it while the ad's playing. Get your votes in one way or the other. Let's talk about Isaiah Likely now. And we talked about Likely the other day, and you talk about taking advantage of an opportunity. He has done just that at this point. Mark Andrews, of course, dealing with that sports hernia injury. So Isaiah Likely, who was also selected in the fourth round of this year's draft in competing for one of those tight end spots, has really stepped up and made his presence known. Lamar Jackson referred to him as baby Mark Andrews, says that he likes a wide receiver in a tight end's body. And we even heard from Mark Andrews himself say that he sees some Mark Andrews in Isaiah Likely. So with that said, you can't have too many Mark Andrews. And we've heard that said about Charlie Kolar too. So it's like this Ravens tight end room is just procreating Mark Andrews all over the place. That's what it feels like right now. I mean, this is an elite tight end room with players just like Mark Andrews, it seems. You can't have too much of a good thing. I like what I've seen from this Ravens tight end room. It's the best in the National Football League. Likely's going to be good. Mark Andrews, we know, is one of the best. And Charlie Kolar, when he comes back, I have high expectations for as well. And that's not to even mention even Nick Boyle either. So, folks, even if you have concerns about the receiver room, and that's fine if you do, there's no reason to be concerned at all about the tight end room whatsoever. And the tight end room should give you confidence about the receiving core as a whole, as far as I'm concerned. So, with that said, we have more winners to get to in just one moment. Before we get to that, though, smash that sub button. Subscribe to the Ravens Rundown now. We're trying to get to 7,000 subscribers before football season begins, but we need your help to get there. Subscribe now at youtube.com/RavensTV. Join the Noti gang as well. Get those notifications on. And never miss a moment what's going on with your Baltimore Ravens here on the Ravens Rundown. Next up is Travis Jones. And Travis Jones, he received some praise from the folks at the USA Today this week. And here's what they had to say about Jones, what he's done at camp. Jones has gotten some big praise over the past few days, including from fellow defensive lineman Michael Pierce, who raved about what Jones was able to do at M&T Bank Stadium on Saturday. The rookie could earn a big role early on, especially with his knack for bringing the quarterback down. And you hope with Campbell and Pierce they can coach up these younger guys, that we can see them take that next step of sorts, and that Travis Jones can be one of them to really elevate their game. The reports with Jones, that's exactly what you want to hear at this point. I'm very excited about that for Travis Jones, and that things appear to be headed in the right direction with him. A couple more names for you. Let's look at Brandon Stevens now. And Brandon Stevens, he's a Swiss Army knife, a do-it-all type of player. Very versatile and very valuable for this Ravens team. Coming in at 6'1", 215. Last year, 78 tackles, 4 pass breakups. And, he's played some safety. He's played some nickel. He's really been everywhere. And when you look at this Ravens secondary, we've talked a lot about this secondary, right? How good they are. The best secondary, I believe, in the National Football League. And with Brandon Stevens, what you like there is if there's an injury, and we know this Ravens team has seen the injuries, in particular in the secondary, whether it's Humphrey or Peters or whoever it is. Something happens to Kyle Hamilton, God forbid. Stevens can step up any way you need of him to step up and fill the gaps if something happens. He is going to be a really nice piece, and it's good to hear that he's playing well so far through training camp at this point in time. Today's show is sponsored by Mint Mobile on America's largest 5G network. It's owned by Ryan Reynolds, by the way. So with that, I have a proposal for you. How about you go ahead and sign up for Mint Mobile today and get unlimited talk and text with 5G high-speed data, mobile hotspots, plans starting at just $15 a month. Even your mom might ask you to stop calling so much. Leave me alone. I get it that you got, all the good stuff on a cheap price, but you don't need to be bugging me so much. Mom, it's okay. It's okay. We got Mint Mobile. Everything is good now, right? Plans starting at $15 a month. Look, times are tough, folks. We're trying to save every dollar we can. Inflation, high gas prices. Our country's going to hell, folks. I mean, we need to save every penny. Why not start with your cell phone plan? MintMobile.com/chatsports. Sign up now. MintMobile.com/chatsports with plans starting at $15 a month. All right. Next up, our final winner today is Kyle Hamilton. You knew we weren't going to get through this winner's show without talking about Kyle Hamilton. And Kyle Hamilton, arguably the most talented player in this past draft out of Notre Dame. 2021, in the 7 games he played, he was spectacular with 34 tackles, 3 interceptions, 4 pass breakups, and somehow, some way, fell to the Ravens there with their draft pick, and he was the steal of the draft. I mean, quite simply. And what blows my mind, too, is this was a draft where you only had one quarterback selected in the first round. And it was not a sexy draft by any means. Yet a guy like Kyle Hamilton still fell to the Ravens where he did. I mean, I think if you talk to anyone with a brain that scouts the NFL, about all of them had Kyle Hamilton as at least a top 5 player in the draft. And yet somehow he fell all the way to the Ravens? Made no sense. But nonetheless, he's here, and he's looked good so far to this point. So, with that, who do you think is the biggest winner of Ravens training camp so far to this point? Whether it's one of those 5 names we mentioned or somebody else. Let me know in the comments section below who you think the biggest winner of training camp has been so far. And one more note, a bonus winner, health. That sounds nice to say with the Baltimore Ravens after all that they've been through. John Harbaugh has been very cautious this offseason with his stars and players coming off injury, but it does appear that things are headed in the right direction. And, one of the things I told you a week or two ago when we were doing our training camp preview, I said, look, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that this team, I think, is going to be healthier at the end of training camp than they will be at the start of training camp, with guys like J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards on the PUP list and company, and trying to get guys back that were out last year, like Ronnie Stanley and Marcus Peters. I think that things will look a lot better here in a few weeks, and it's headed that right direction as far as that goes. So very good news on that front when it comes to health. And I know it hasn't been pretty. It's been a long few months with some of these injuries, but it is going to get better. Things are heading in the right direction there. So let's not jinx anything. Type knock on wood so we don't jinx the Ravens' health, so we make sure everybody's fine as far as I'm concerned. Just type a little good luck, some knock on wood, and we'll make sure everything's okay. All right, a couple losers for you so far. We go with Ben Cleveland and Kevon Seymour. And let's tell you about both these guys, starting with Seymour. Not great. He's been kind of getting burned in coverage at this point. And if you're looking for a spin zone, at least, with this Ravens receiving core that's very young and looking for guys to break out, they've looked good when they face Seymour. So I guess that's one way you could look at it. But in Seymour's case, it's not been great for him. Meanwhile, with Ben Cleveland, he did not pass his physical, and there's a chance that he could get cut. Remember, he is fighting for one of those spots on the offensive line. And going into camp, I think there was a belief that Cleveland had the edge to get one of those final 53-man roster spots. But a little news flash for you. You got to pass the physical and at least be on the football field, right? So another bonus winner of sorts, I would include Ben Powers, because Ben Powers going into camp was the odd man out, that it looked like he was going to be not the one making the roster. And with Cleveland not even eligible to get on the field with this physical, you'd have to think that helps Ben Powers' chances of making the roster at this point. So there you have it. That is our winners and losers throughout 1 week of training camp so far. Pads are about to come on. Those goofy foam things are coming off the helmets too. Things are getting better. We're getting going on training camp here, folks. Subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/RavensTV, so you never miss a moment. We'll be covering this team throughout all of training camp, counting you down to kickoff here on the Ravens Rundown. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.